November 2016 has not been an easy month to be a pollster. Remember, these are the folks who said Donald Trump's chances of becoming president were, at best, 15%. Well, now they've produced a composite of the typical Trump voter. The typical Trump voter is married, middle-aged white man, has at least a high school education and an average salary of at least $50,000 a year. He's Republican and conservative. He probably lives in a suburban area. He's either Catholic or Protestant and goes to church at least once a month. He says immigration or terrorism were the most important factors to him this election, and the most important value in a candidate is someone who can deliver change. So does the president-elect's economic proposals square with what the Trump voter, or maybe every voter, is looking for? Linda Chavez is the chairman of the Center for Equal Opportunity. She's a Republican. She's been critical of Donald Trump's economic policies. Chad Stone is the chief economist for the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. He's a former chief economist for the President's Council of Economic Advisors. It's nice to have both of you with me today. Basically, Donald Trump is proposing that we lower the number of tax brackets. So the top bracket, the wealthiest people who are now paying almost 40% in taxes, that number would drop to 33%. Why don't you start for me, Chad? How do you assess this tax proposal?
Well, the tax proposal, when you get right down to it, is a fairly standard Republican tax proposal to basically cut taxes on high-income folks and say that spending cuts will come along somewhere to pay for them. We at the Center on Budget have a calculation, I think it's from the Tax Policy Center actually, that the top 0.8% of the income distribution get 3 times as much of the tax break as the bottom 80%.
So they're really
0.8 versus the bottom 80%, yeah.
So if this is a standard Republican presentation to some degree, as a Republican and certainly as a Reagan Republican, how do you assess this tax plan that's been put forth by President-elect Trump?
Well, it is one of the few things that I actually like in the Trump platform is his tax plan. I do think it would stimulate job creation. I think if people have more money to spend of their own, particularly if businesses, there's also a cut in the business tax rate. If businesses pay fewer taxes, they can end up hiring more people, and that could have a stimulative effect. But I do agree with Chad that the real question is, what happens when there is less money coming into the Treasury, at least initially? I mean, the idea is that eventually there'll be more because there'll be more job creation. But what do you do about spending? And that is always the rub.
Let's talk about trade. Donald Trump has made it clear in a lot of his campaign speeches he wants to renegotiate NAFTA or get out of NAFTA altogether. And also, he does not want to expand trade. You clearly have an issue with President-elect Trump on trade.
Absolutely. I mean, Soledad, the biggest threat to the economy that Trump proposes is in the trade area. You know, people think, oh, gee, wouldn't it be great if we punish the Chinese or punish the Mexicans for taking jobs away from us? Well, guess who's going to pay for those tariffs? They're not going to be paid for by the government of Mexico or the government of China. They're going to be paid for by the American consumer.
Trade policy of the sort that that he's talking about, of protectionism, is really not the way to go for many of the reasons that Linda spoke of. We need to have policies that address the concerns of the workers who've been dislocated and face more difficult job opportunities. But pure protectionism is not the way to go.
It's a very populist message. And again, on the campaign trail, you heard Donald Trump saying this a lot, this idea, build a wall, or, you know, that those jobs that you have lost were really taken by immigrants who've come into this country and stolen those jobs.
Immigration is something easy to point to. Trade is something easy to point to, but that's not the answer.
So what is the answer? How do you take somebody who's in the Rust Belt who's just said, okay, Donald Trump speaks my language and I want to vote for someone bringing back jobs?
Those jobs are not coming back. We're not going to have the manufacturing plants in the upper Midwest coming back. What we have now is an economy that is very highly technical. We're very much into the information age. And what we need to do is help these workers get the skills that'll allow them and their children to be able to get better paying jobs.
Linda Chavez and Chad Stone, thanks so much. Appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
Thank you.